Welcome back to The Explainer. So let's talk about something we all do every single day, writing. But here's a thought. What if the way you write, the way your team writes, is actually costing your company a fortune? I'm not kidding. Today, we're going to break down the principles that can transform your words from just, well, words, into powerful tools for real impact.
Okay, so let's just jump right in with a number. A big one. $3.1 billion. I mean, wow. So, what in the world could a number that huge possibly have to do with writing?
Believe it or not, that is what American businesses spend every single year just to retrain their employees in basic writing. It's wild, right? You think about all those misunderstood emails, those reports that just confuse people, instructions that are anything but clear, it all piles up. And suddenly, this simple skill becomes this giant, incredibly expensive problem.
And that right there gets us to the heart of the matter. See, writing isn't just some dusty old subject you finished with in school. Nope. In the real world, in business, it's a high-stakes tool. And mistakes, they get really expensive. So clarity, it's not just a nice-to-have, it's absolutely critical. Okay, so how do we fix this? Here's our roadmap. We're going to dive deeper into that $3.1 billion problem. Then, we'll walk through a super simple 3-stage writing blueprint. We'll talk about words that actually work, how to avoid common traps, and finally, the big one, how to write to express yourself clearly.
So, we've established the problem. It's a big one. But what's the solution? Well, here's the good news. You don't have to be some kind of literary genius. Not at all. Powerful writing isn't some secret gift. It's just a process. A simple, repeatable process that honestly anyone can get the hang of. Let's get into it.
It all boils down to these 3 stages: pre-writing, writing, and reviewing. Think of it like this. You plan, you execute, and then you polish. That's it. Every single solid piece of writing goes through this cycle.
So, that first step, pre-writing, this is where you plan your attack. It's all strategy. Before you even think about typing a sentence, you got to ask yourself some key questions. Who am I actually talking to here? What do they already know? And what's the one thing I absolutely need them to do or understand after they read this? Nailing this at the beginning, man, it saves you so much grief down the line.
All right, so you've gotten through the writing stage, you've got that first draft out, now it's time to polish. And listen, the reviewing stage is way more than just hitting spell check. You have to step back. First, you look at the big picture. Did I actually achieve what I set out to do? Then, and only then, you zoom in on the tiny details, making sure every little word and comma is perfect.
Okay, we got our process down. Now let's get into the real nuts and bolts, the actual words you choose. Because this is where the magic happens. It's where your message either really connects with your reader, or it just completely falls flat.
You know, it's so tempting to reach for big fancy words to sound impressive, right? We've all done it, but here's the secret. Powerful writing does the exact opposite. Just look at this. Why on earth would you use a word like ameliorate when improve works perfectly and everyone gets it instantly? Using simple words doesn't mean you're a simple thinker. It means you're a clear thinker, and that gets your point across way faster.
Okay, another big one to watch out for, jargon. Look, I get it. Technical terms, acronyms, they're great shortcuts when you're talking to other people in your field. But the second you talk to anyone else, it's like you're speaking a different language. It just builds a wall between you and your audience. So the rule is super simple. If you have to use it, you have to explain it. Period.
And you know what? The exact same thing goes for slang. Words like glitch or saying you were blown away might feel friendly and casual, but in a business email or a report, it can kind of chip away at your credibility. Sticking to standard, professional language just helps you maintain that authoritative tone.
All right, so we've got our toolbox full of simple, clear words. Now let's go on the hunt for some common traps. These are the little things that can sneak into your writing and totally sabotage your message, even when you think you're on the right track. First on our list is the infamous passive voice. Just look at the difference here. John wrote the report. Bam, it's clear, it's direct, it has energy. Now, the report was written by John. See how that feels? It's just a little weaker, a little more indirect. If you want your writing to have some real punch, you should almost always go with the active voice.
But hold on a second. The passive voice isn't always the bad guy. Sometimes it can actually be a pretty clever strategic tool. Let's say you have to deliver some bad news. Saying mistakes were made is a whole lot more diplomatic than pointing a finger and saying, you made mistakes, right? It's a neat trick to shift the focus away from who's to blame and onto what happened.
Next up, redundancies. Oh man, these are sneaky. They're basically extra words that add absolutely no new information and just clutter everything up. I mean, think about it. True facts. Aren't all facts true? Past history. Where else would history be? When you chop these out, your writing instantly becomes sharper, cleaner, and way more professional.
And finally, we've got to talk about clichés. You know them, you've heard them a million times. They're phrases that have been so overused that they've lost all their meaning. Honestly, they're just mental shortcuts, and they can make your writing feel kind of lazy and unoriginal. So instead of reaching for something like last but not least, just say what you mean. Be direct, be specific, and try to be a little fresh. Okay, so we've covered a lot. We've got the process, we've talked about the right words, and we know what traps to look out for. But what's the one big idea that pulls all of this together? What's the guiding principle, the North Star for any piece of powerful writing?
It all comes down to this one simple idea. Write to express, not to impress. Seriously, if you take away only one thing today, let it be this. Your number one job as a writer is to get an idea out of your head and into your reader's head as clearly as you possibly can. It's not a performance. It's not about showing off how many big words you know. It's just about being understood.
So, I'm going to leave you with a challenge. The very next time you sit down to write something, I don't care if it's a 2-sentence email or a 20-page report, what's the one small thing you're going to change? Are you going to swap just one complicated word for a simpler one? Are you going to hunt down a single passive sentence and flip it to active? Because that one little change, that's where it all starts. That's the beginning of becoming a truly powerful writer.